Hello, out there, internet people. Today's talk is another one of the talks I have a lot with many of my clients, especially in the last few years, because it's all about breath, and breath has become a very popular topic. And so, what I usually like to ask my clients, because a lot of them will come in asking me about this or that for breath, is I like to first sort of get an idea about what they think, and so I ask a lot the simple question: what is good breath? And I'm going to ask it to you. What is good breath? Take a little time with it. Ask yourself, what is good breath? Now, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to give you the amount of time I normally give my clients, and I'm not going to be able to hear back your response. So I'm going to tell you what most people will say, which is deep, big breaths. The deep, big breaths into the belly, that's good breathing. And I will say, not always, or incorrect, sort of. Those are all possible answers. Because the real answer for what is good breath or good breathing is it depends. It really depends on what are we doing. And to oversimplify it, that's to say that if we were sitting on the couch, reading a book, slow, deep breath, very helpful, very functional. Now, if we're running a marathon, not so helpful, right? Different breathing going on. So what's been going on is that there are certain types of breathings that are more beneficial for certain types of situations, and a lot of us have less helpful breathing patterns. A lot of us breathe more into the chest. We're in states of fight or flight, which has a different breathing pattern associated with it. And so a lot of us are breathing in ways that are deemed unhealthy. But that's not the whole story. The story is we have breathing patterns that we've in some way or another learned to be in. And so just doing a breathing pattern of like deep breathing is great, right? If we're in states of real anxiety and we're breathing faster, breathing slower will help us come down a bit more. It will help us regulate a bit more. I'm not saying that's the case. That's great to do that. What I'm saying is that this is just the beginning part of the story, and it's taken to be the whole story. And so what I mean by that is, okay, we're not breathing in the most optimal way as we've been told optimal ways are. Well, why? And so until we actually get into the why, we're not going to actually change very much. A lot of times what also happens is we build this up over time. So not only do we build up a breathing pattern, a way of breathing, but in order to breathe, our body has to be involved. So we build up ways of our body being held or responding in certain times. So we can change that breath. I'll see if I can show an example of this. I can breathe really deeply into my belly. Well, I don't have the camera that high, you won't see it. But if I'm locked in my chest, I'm not going to breathe as much into my belly as if I could open my chest and breathe into my belly that way. So it's not just about breathing into the belly. It's much more complex. It's about looking at all the muscles and the bones and the whole body really and saying, hey, what are we doing and what are we responding to? So the first part of the question is to what is good breath is it depends. Well, what are we trying to have good for? What are we trying to do? What are we responding to? The next part comes, well, how do we have the best breath for each situation? A lot of that comes into then understanding the physiology and the psychology that are interrelated within breathing and recognizing, well, why are we not doing that? And that's what's being left out. We're overlaying patterns of this is good breathing, let's put it on this situation without unwinding, unlearning what is underneath it. And that's where the real work comes in. And that's a lot of what I end up doing with people. It's not very sexy. It's not as sexy as lying in an ice bath and doing that whole thing, or whatever is the new trend. The new trends generally don't work very long. So yes, they hit you and it's exciting and it's wow, and we didn't know it before. So, oh my God, so cool. And look at this, it's working. Yes, it works temporarily much of the time. Let's talk in a year, right? Because we haven't actually changed the situation we're in. So the metaphor I like to give, actually it's really more of an analogy, is your house is on fire, right? Smoke alarm's going off. What do? You take the batteries out of the smoke alarm. Well, that's helpful. You don't hear the alarm anymore. Case closed. Maybe. Or you can spend a little more time and say, well, there's smoke. Okay, let me move the smoke away. Cool. Right? Now the smoke alarm stopped. Well, has it solved the issue? It solved some of it a little more. What if we take a little more time? Oh, where there's smoke, there's fire. Ah, there's a fire. Let's put out the fire. Ta-da, fire is gone. Does that solve the problem? Well, depends. What caused the fire, right? So this second way takes a lot longer. It's much more exciting to just take the batteries out and be done. But by questioning in more, inquiring in more, questioning in more, we can then start to actually see, why are we breathing in this way? What have we learned to be in this way? A lot of times we can't actually see it by ourselves. Having an outside person can be really helpful because we have our own blind spots. Until we actually, I'm going to use the word correct, it might not be the exact right word, but until we actually correct what is incorrect and causing us to have these systems out of place, all these other breathing things will provide, I should say, may provide some benefit, but they don't change the underlying cause, because the underlying cause is not even brought up. And that's where healing comes in. That's where health comes in, through starting to look at what is, how, why. So please do all the breath work that you do. It'll be really fun. When it reverts, look me up. I'm happy to help you and to have you find ways to say, okay, let's actually do the work. Again, probably won't be very sexy, but it works. And I have numerous case loads and clinical studies of that. So I don't want to get too boring in the last part, just to say I'm hoping that this in some way starts to get you to become a little more aware and to step out of your framework of thinking, which is just most of them having information put on us and taking it to be true. And now what you're hopefully doing is not listening to what I'm saying, but taking it in, questioning it, putting it on. Because really, I'm not actually saying anything. I'm trying to inspire people to think in different ways. And please, please, please don't listen to what I say as an exact. Use it as a framework, as a reference that's trying to start to think differently. Anyways, it's time for dinner here. Hope you all are safe and well out there. Keep unlearning. It's the best way to be. And I'll see you when I see you.